There's a good chance you've seen these roadside signs pop up in your neighborhood, those government asset forfeiture public auction signs we're talking about. They advertise high-end jewelry, original masterpieces, even fancy sports cars. But is someone else's misfortune your chance to get a great deal?
For the next 4 nights this week, our special assignment unit takes you inside those neighborhood auctions and takes a closer look at an auctioneer at the center of numerous consumer complaints.
Yeah, here is Larry Miller now with the first installment in his series, Behind the Bidding.
I'm one of the rare people that actually got her money back.
This is Rebecca. She asked us to only use her first name to protect her identity.
My goal is to warn as many people as I can.
And she says she's had quite the journey with what she thought would be a fun time at a neighborhood auction she went to in Chicago.
I kept seeing all of these signs, sign after sign after sign after sign after sign, and all of these signs said auction. And I thought, well, I've got nothing to do. I might just go to that auction and see what it's all about. And that was the start of my journey.
Rebecca attended an auction organized by Surplus Auctions. They advertise high-value jewelry, art by the greats, even high-end sports vehicles. She says the items were advertised as having exceptional high value and were all certified. So she felt comfortable bidding on a few of her favorites.
I purchased a diamond bracelet and I purchased 2 art pieces. One was supposedly a Picasso and one was supposedly a Renoir.
Now, Rebecca knew she wasn't buying an original Picasso and an original Renoir worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But based on those certificates of authenticity, she did believe she was buying valuable pieces.
When you read on the back of an art piece that it's a rare, limited edition and it's certified, you believe that what you're getting is certified merchandise.
Rebecca says Surplus Auctions provided her with this $21,000 Gem Assured appraisal report for the bracelet. She paid about $4,600. A framed Picasso reproduction for $6,900. And a Renoir reproduction for $2,300. And with tax, her total bill came up to $15,180. Rebecca can't recall if she received or signed a terms of condition document laying out the guidelines for the auction, but we obtained a document in subsequent auctions organized by the company. It adds that buyers should not base your decision to buy an item based on the appraisal value, and that the retail value may be very high or very low. And it also says that all statements, whether printed or made orally, are statements of opinion only and are not a representation of fact. And guess what? They apply whether you read them or not. Rebecca ended up getting those items independently appraised and was shocked by the value difference.
I was surprised to find out that my bracelet that was supposed to be valued at $21,740 was only worth $3,000. The Picasso and the Renoir were worth less than $100 each.
What was going through your mind at that point?
At first you're very happy because you got a bargain on artwork or jewelry, and then you realize, at least I did, that I had been scammed.
The auction company disputes Rebecca's appraisals. According to a lawsuit it filed against Rebecca, the Renoir was a limited edition of 1,000 printed in 1919, and the Picasso a limited edition lithograph printed in 1961. She says she called her credit card company immediately and reported her concerns about the authenticity of the items she bought.
Welcome to Chase Card Services.
She got most of her money back.
And I prepared an extensive document proving that what they had sold me was not what they had said that it was worth.
We reached out to Surplus Auctions to ask about Rebecca's allegations. We didn't hear back from the company, but we later learned that Surplus Auctions has a parent company. We'll get back to that in a moment. Rebecca was refunded with the help of her credit card company. After returning the artwork, she got $12 of the $15,000 that she spent. Rebecca agreed that the bracelet was worth about $3,000, so she kept it. But she was still really upset with Surplus Auctions.
I turned my anger into curiosity, and I needed to find out, who are these people? Why are they doing this to me? Why are they doing it to other people? And that began the journey that I have taken for 3 years.
Rebecca says she didn't hear from the auction company about getting her money back until she started posting comments about Surplus Auctions on the social media forum Reddit.
So I was causing them a lot of pain and agony because of the Reddit posts that I was making, and they were able to figure out who I was. So they brought a lawsuit against me for $1.2 million.
That legal action filed in Cook County, Illinois, alleges Rebecca defamed the company online and that Rebecca's allegations were not true. The lawsuit alleges Rebecca made numerous egregious and inflammatory statements deliberately and explicitly intended to harm and damage the business. In response, Rebecca's lawyer filed a motion to dismiss the complaint, calling Rebecca's opinions of the company protected speech, and it adds that the complaint fails to specifically allege special damages caused by any alleged statements made by Rebecca.
In my opinion, the entire lawsuit was about fear and intimidation. They just wanted me to shut up. But furthermore, beyond that, they wanted me to sign a release or an NDA. I refused to sign that, and I had no intention of signing it.
But remember those terms used by the company at subsequent auctions. All statements are statements of opinion only and are not a representation of facts. And they recommended buyers do not base their decision to buy an item on the appraisal value. The case is still working its way through the Cook County court system. We took a closer look at that complaint. It turns out Rebecca's actually being sued by Neoclassic Auctions LLC, a Delaware company. In that complaint filed by Neoclassic Auctions, they admit these pieces are not original paintings and says they're authentic art prints consisting of one offset lithograph and one heliogravure. In fact, the Renoir and Picasso are both limited editions. The suit goes on to claim that Rebecca's appraiser failed to do the correct due diligence. The two sides have been locked in tense negotiations for months with no clear terms or resolution. For now, the case remains open and the judge could decide to throw it out or move forward. We reached out to Neoclassic Auctions and its subsidiaries several times for this story. We called, we emailed, we faxed, we sent letters. We still have yet to get a response. Neoclassic Auctions also does business in Virginia, Maryland, and it operates under various business names, including Surplus Auctions.
It's a huge operation, and they would not be doing it if they weren't making any money.
Larry Miller, WUSA 9.
Yeah, more people have come forward with similar allegations against this auction company and the auctioneer. So tomorrow night at 11 o'clock, you're going to hear from another person who frequents these auctions, see the process unfold and what happened when our team tried to get answers. Last night, our special assignment unit shared the story of this Chicago woman right here who said an auction she attended sold her items that were worth far less than what she was told. She's on a mission to warn others about the auction company that our team learned has deep ties to our area. We've been investigating this company for more than a year now. Here's Larry Miller with part 2 of his series, Behind the Bidding.
There were like signs almost on every intersection about this government auction for seized merchandise. They had like list of their like Rolex, Lamborghinis, everything.
Tatiana asked us only to use her first name and to shield her face to protect her identity. She lives in Chicago, and in 2022, she and her husband attended a public auction held by Heritage Estate Auctions.
It was my birthday. He told me, let's have fun.
What happens when you get to the auction?
When I came, we didn't have chance to see any paperwork for anything. But guy next to me, he bought 4 or 5 paintings, over $10,000 each. We saw so much excitement. People were like going crazy. It's also got us a little bit excited.
So excited, she and her husband bought what the auctioneer advertised as a Rolex watch and a Breitling watch, diamond earrings, a sapphire and diamond necklace, and a Rembrandt reproduction. Their total bill, more than $50,000. Tatiana can't recall if she received or signed a terms and conditions document, but we obtained a document in subsequent auctions organized by the company. It adds that buyers should not base your decision to buy an item based on the appraisal value, and that the retail value may be very high or very low. And it also says that all statements, whether printed or made orally, are statements of opinion only and are not a representation of fact. And guess what? They apply whether you read them or not. As they were leaving, they met a woman in the lobby, Rebecca. We shared her story about a Chicago auction she attended in 2021. That was held by the same auctioneer.
I purchased a diamond bracelet and I purchased 2 art pieces. One was supposedly a Picasso and one was supposedly a Renoir.
Now, Rebecca knew she wasn't buying an original Picasso and an original Renoir worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But based on those certificates of authenticity, she did believe she was buying valuable pieces. Rebecca's independent appraisals told a different story.
I was surprised to find out that my bracelet that was supposed to be valued at $21,740 was only worth $3,000. The Picasso and the Renoir were worth less than $100 each.
The auction company, Neoclassic Auctions, ended up suing Rebecca for $1.2 million. claiming Rebecca made numerous egregious and inflammatory statements deliberately and explicitly intended to harm and damage the business. In the last 3 years, Rebecca says she's been to 4 auctions in Chicago, all held by the same auctioneer, and she's on a mission to warn others like Tatiana.
I told her what we bought. My husband told me this woman not have to spoil our fun. But I'm so thankful to her.
Like Rebecca, Tatiana also paid for independent appraisals, and she too got some unexpected news.
I was in shock. I don't even have words to explain to you how I felt when they told me that all 4 pieces that I paid $57,000 was under $7,000.
But remember those terms used by the company at subsequent auctions. All statements are statements of opinion only and are not a representation of facts. And they recommended buyers do not base their decision to buy an item on the appraisal value. It took Tatiana some time, but she eventually tracked down the auction company. They agreed to take back the Rembrandt, the 2 watches, and gave her a refund of $38,000. But she says they wouldn't take back the diamond earrings or this sapphire and diamond necklace.
Was that deal okay for you?
No, it was not.
She says she filed a report with the Lombard, Illinois police, and while that didn't help her case, she says officers told her she wasn't the only one to file a complaint.
What do you think about this experience?
It was disappointment, like hurt, violated, embarrassed, angry. And you know what? 2 years passed by, and I'm still angry when I think about this. It's hard to comprehend.
So who's behind these auctions? WUSA 9 obtained these photos from Rebecca. She took them at 2 different Chicago auctions, and here he is at 2 different Maryland auctions that we attended.
Do you have a card I could have?
Here he is back in July when WUSA 9 investigative producer Aaron Spade approached him at one of those Maryland auctions.
Do you have a card, or can I talk to you for a minute? I've been trying to reach you for some time.
You need to leave the premises.
I've just been trying to reach you for a long time.
Call the police
Okay.
and have you charged for trespassing.
I will leave the property.
Larry Miller, WUSA 9.
All right, so coming up tomorrow night, our team goes inside one of the auctions organized by this company. We watch how the process unfolds and speak with regulators who question whether they were operating legally in Maryland. You're going to see part 3 of Behind the Bidding tomorrow night right here at 11 o'clock.
It is a fact Americans love to get a great deal. And if you've ever wondered about those red, white, and blue government forfeiture auction signs you see along the side of the road, Larry Miller has a warning for you.
Yeah, several people from various states who went to these auctions say what they thought they were buying was not what they got. So tonight, our team pulls back the curtain and confronts the people holding these events. Here is Larry Miller now with part 3 of his series, Behind the Bidding.
The advertising signs are enticing. High-value asset forfeitures. They promote Renoirs, Picassos, Rolex watches, fine jewelry, and big-ticket items like this orange Lamborghini and this blue McLaren. For the last year, we've watched as signs like these popped up in neighborhoods across the region and in other states, and then quickly disappear. So when we saw this sign last November, we decided to check it out. It was being put on by Goldman Resource Settlements. We got there early and watched the process unfold. We headed inside and handed over our IDs, which they copied. They handed us these terms and conditions they say apply whether we read them or not. Things like the auctioneer specifically makes no warranty or representation as to the value of any particular item. It goes on to say the auctioneer accepts no responsibility for the authenticity, age, origin, condition, size, weight, quality, or kind.
Done 18,000 twice. Done 18,000. Congratulations, sir.
While inside, organizers verbally told us the items up for auction were all legitimate works of art. Some were originals, others were high-end reproductions. But remember the terms and conditions document? Well, it also states statements are opinion only and are not a representation of fact. We spotted these 2 pieces, labeled Picasso and labeled Andy Warhol. And we saw lots and lots of jewelry, diamonds and gold. But if you refer back to the terms and conditions document, it says many of our fine watches and jewelry items have been customized, have aftermarket since leaving the factory. And when we spotted this man, the auctioneer, he later announced recordings weren't allowed inside due to privacy concerns. So we went dark and started looking for answers based on this Goldman Resource Settlements invoice. We checked the address and found a virtual workspace. For months, WUSA 9 tried reaching the auctioneer and several of his business associates. We called, we emailed, we faxed, we sent letters, but never heard back.
Suite 100 in.
So we dropped a letter to Goldman Resource Settlements in a box with an AirTag. We tracked our letter as it went from WUSA 9 to a Maryland post office to another Maryland post office, then to their Sangamore Avenue address where it sat for about a week, and then it showed back up at our front door. But when we dug into decades of business records, we found out a lot. According to the Virginia State Corporation Commission records, Goldman Resource Settlements is not the real name of the company behind the auction we attended. It's really a company called Neoclassic Auctions. Records show it operates auctions under at least 15 other names. We tracked down their base of operations.
We're here for a Blue Moon Gallery. Thank you.
To this address near Dulles, which is tied to two brothers and businessmen,
Is that up there?
Anwar Khan and Azam Khan. Records show both men have a long history with Virginia state regulators and other enforcement agencies. WUSA 9 tracked Azam Khan and Anwar Khan, their various business entities and business associates through 20 states. In more than half, we found actions against Azam or Anwar for things like misleading and deceptive advertising, using fake bidders, and unlicensed activity. In Virginia, Anwar surrendered his license after the Board of Auctioneers discovered misleading ads that made it sound like the auctions were government sanctioned, and they said he had hired temporary workers from an employment agency to act as shills. And according to DPOR records, as of this report, Anwar Khan is currently not a licensed auctioneer in Virginia. Azam Khan was also investigated in the Commonwealth in 4 other cases, including misleading advertising, where in this case, Azam was fined at least $1,000. In another case where Azam was accused of failing to maintain proper records, he was fined $3,000 by the Auctioneers Board. And in another case where Azam was accused of failing to notify the board about his suspension in the state of Wisconsin, Virginia's Board of Auctioneers decided to suspend his Commonwealth license for 2 years. Florida suspended both their auctioneer licenses. Oregon investigated Anwar Khan for unlicensed activity and alleged unlawful trade practices. Kentucky revoked Anwar's auctioneer's license and investigated Azam for misleading advertising.
They are fly-by-night auctioneers. They come into Montgomery County, come into Bethesda or other areas, and they show up just for one day, and then they just disappear.
Eric Friedman is with the Montgomery County, Maryland Office of Consumer Protection and says the Goldman Resource Settlements auction we attended was operating illegally from the get-go.
You can't put a sign like that without having a permit. So it starts out with something that's a matter of deception to begin with.
According to Eric Friedman, Neoclassic Auctions, doing business as Goldman Resource Settlements, did not have a permit to post roadside signs, and it was not licensed to sell secondhand property in the county at its November 3rd, 2023 auction. And according to a state licensing investigator, Neoclassics and none of its affiliated businesses were licensed to auction off and sell diamonds, jewelry, and gold at that Maryland auction.
The police need a mechanism to try and track the items, to see if the items that the auctioneers are receiving and then auctioning have been reported stolen by other consumers.
There were signs all over the place.
Like us, this man saw the signs and checked out that same auction we did.
I went there to have fun.
He says he's been to other auctions but didn't buy anything at this one because there were too many red flags. He says the entire process was unusual, he felt uneasy, and asked us to conceal his identity.
The sign says at the very top federal government. I tried to call that, but nobody answered that. I thought that was suspicious.
And when he got inside the auction, he says things didn't get better.
What did you notice about the paintings?
There were many paintings. An auction at this level, the paintings are reproductions. I noticed that there were some original paintings, so there was some oil paintings there. So it was an interesting mix. The other thing that caught my attention is that some of them had on the back a certificate of authenticity. And I thought that was over the top. That was another thing that it was too good to believe.
He says people were acting strange.
I saw a gentleman going to the auctioneer and whispering for a long time, and that was in the middle of the auction, and I thought that was weird.
Can you identify who the auctioneer was the night that you were at the auction in Montgomery County?
Yeah, it was this gentleman here. He was really a character. He would just escalate the prices very fast, and I couldn't see who was making the bets. So I stood up and I went to the back of the room, and immediately we were surrounded by 2 guys. So we felt uncomfortable.
Larry Miller, WUSA 9.
There is still a lot more to this story. Coming up tomorrow on the news at 11, the final installment of our Behind the Bidding series. Our team heads to the company's headquarters in Northern Virginia, and what they find there leaves them surprised. You don't want to miss it. Last night, our Larry Miller, along with investigative producer Aaron Spate, dug into the companies tied to auctions associated with the types of roadside signs you see here.
Yeah, they took you to Chicago, Illinois and Montgomery County, Maryland. And now the team looks at the company's operations in Virginia, and what they uncovered there was surprising. Here's Larry Miller with the final installment in a series, Behind the Bidding.
It looks like an old yogurt shop. For months, WUSA 9 has been trying to speak with the people behind Neoclassic Auctions.
Hello, your call has been forwarded to the voicemail for the auction department.
Their various entities and affiliated businesses with no luck.
Who's the auctioneer?
The auctioneer is here.
No, who is he?
I'm not going to disclose that with you because I don't know who you are.
I'm one of the rare people that actually got her money back.
This company sued Rebecca, whom you met earlier in our series. She bought some of the items at one of its Chicago auctions in 2021. She was concerned about the value of items she purchased and took to Reddit to complain about the company. Then Neoclassic Auctions sued Rebecca for defamation, claiming her comments hurt their business, but she's standing by her claims.
They just wanted me to shut up. But furthermore, beyond that, they wanted me to sign a release or an NDA. I refused to sign that, and I had no intention of signing it.
You also met Tatiana, who had a similar experience with the same company.
I was in shock. I don't even have words to explain to you how I felt.
And you met regulators in Maryland who say Neoclassic Auctions was not licensed by the county or state when it was operating the auctions we attended.
They are fly-by-night auctioneers.
For months, WUSA 9 tried reaching the auctioneer and several of his business associates. We called, we emailed, we faxed, we sent letters, and still have yet to get a response. So all of that got us wondering, who is behind Neoclassic Auctions? And where else in our area are they holding auctions? We started digging into decades of business records, and it led us here, to this industrial park near Dulles Airport. Records show this is the principal office address for Neoclassic Auctions and dozens of other business entities associated with Anwar Khan, Azam Khan, Maureen Connolly, and others. One of the companies Neoclassic Auctions does business as is the Blue Moon Gallery. We went there in January 2024.
We're here for a Blue Moon Gallery? Thank you.
After someone buzzed us in, we found what appeared to be a car dealership office.
See that up there?
Seized luxury vehicles.
Can you see who that business card is on that desk?
And as we ventured in farther, we saw what appeared to be a collection of art.
This is a particular style.
Including this brightly colored image of Lady Liberty. Pay attention to this painting. We'll come back to it. We walked around a bit, didn't see anyone.
There's no one here, really.
And no one came to talk with us. We spotted what appeared to be art wrapped behind some fencing and this room. That's where we saw a roadside sign being printed for an upcoming auction in March. And when the time came around, we were there. The auction was held in Woodbridge, Virginia, and that's where we spotted this large white truck. Now, it's the same truck that was at a Maryland auction that we attended back in 2023. And we spotted it months later in 2024 at an auction held at Rockwood Manor in Potomac, Maryland. And again, we spotted it months later at an auction in Columbia, Maryland. This orange Lamborghini sitting was drawing some attention, so we headed inside.
The auction? Yes. Yeah, right this way.
Once inside, we were not allowed to record or take photos, so we watched the process unfold.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the auction today.
We were able to record audio of the auction and one painting in particular.
Now here is the creme de la creme of the finest large pieces in acrylic by Peter Max.
Upon a closer look, it looked familiar to us.
Why is it among the most collectible worldwide?
One couple was just as intrigued as we were.
I know the artist. We like the artist.
The artist has done a series of these paintings.
We'll start the bidding at $100,000.
They purchased the brightly colored Lady Liberty painting.
Last time, give me at $20,000.
Last chance.
Stolen at $20,000.
For $20,000. This painting looked so similar to the one we saw at the Dulles facility just a few months before this auction.
They made a big deal when they were talking about how everything in the auction had been authenticated and that they had certificates of authentication. Looking back on it, those could have just been words.
Christy and her husband Christopher bought what was advertised as a Peter Max Liberty head, but they say they had some reservations.
It felt a little like warehousey, a little haphazard.
When we started asking the couple about the painting, we were interrupted by this gentleman who would later identify himself as Alex.
Are you recording, man? Is everything okay? What's going on here? I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here.
No. So I'm just concerned about the authenticity. Now
Okay.
I have an art background. I looked at the painting. I have concerns around the authenticity. Rather than make this complicated, I'm just going to ask you to cancel the transaction.
Well,
if that's not possible.
It's out of my hand. I'm not allowed to do that. I cannot do that.
To be clear, WUSA 9 was not able to determine the authenticity or background of the Peter Max Liberty head paintings, including whether the painting we saw at the warehouse was the same painting sold at the auction and whether they were originals, high-quality reproductions, or prints. Multiple calls to Peter Max's studio went unanswered. We reached out to the auctioneer several times and received no response. Also, 2 art appraisers not connected to this dispute said important information is missing from the certificate of authenticity, like the name of the official who signed the certificate. While a signature is present, you can't make out a name. Sandra Trooper is an art appraiser with more than 25 years of experience.
Who signed them? Whose certificate is it? Anybody can generate a certificate of authenticity. You can find something that has a pretty gold seal and a little bit of design around the outside, and you can put in whatever information you want. You want to know who signed it. You want to know if that person, in fact, was an expert, had some kind of legitimacy, was perhaps involved in the publication.
Back to Christopher and Alex. The two left for a bit, then came back, and Alex said he would refund the purchase.
Did you get your money back? I did get my money back.
After the auction ended,
Hi. I wanted to come over and formally introduce myself.
Sure.
we tried to talk with Alex again in the hotel parking lot to get some answers from him.
Where are you getting this stuff from?
It's the consignments. It's consignments, all consignments.
Through whom? Like, which ones?
I'm not the owner. Like I said, you asking me questions like I'm the owner.
I know what we have. It's legit. Everything's legit. Only somebody paid extra, and then now they're getting cold feet. That's not because the art is fake. It's because you're just cold feet. Happens all the time.
What do you want to say to people that have legitimate concerns about some of the items?
I'm really sorry. I don't know how to tell you guys.
Larry Miller, WUSA 9.
There is still a lot more to this story, including the advice that art appraisers say you should follow before you attend an auction in your neighborhood.
Yeah, you can see our special Behind the Bidding streaming right now on WUSA 9 Plus. You can get advice from veteran art appraisers on how to protect your investments before you buy. There's also more tips posted at WUSA9.com.